FIFA World Cup qualifiers, Qatar 2022. We have the head coach of Canada Soccer's men's national team, John Herdman, here today for questions and answers on the squad selection and the upcoming matches. Oliver Platt, One Soccer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Richard. Hi, John. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thanks,
with Jonathan David coming back into the squad, I just wondered what you think about the potential for him playing with Kyle. How do you see those two maybe kind of combining and getting the best out of them at the same time?
Yeah, it's exciting to have that sort of firepower. I think the simplicity is the two men that know how to score goals. So it's about the supporting cast. And then finding ways to allow them to use the spaces that they need to use to create those moments, to enter the box late, to arrive off players. So I think what you've seen, particularly with Kyle, he has a different instinct to Jonathan in the box. And yeah, I think Jonathan has a bit more, as I say, flexibility in the way he can play out wide, central, play off players. I think Kyle, for us, is that just ultimate predator. He's a person that you really need to get service to, and we'll find those ways without giving too many of the tactics away, Ollie.
I just wanted to check on Atiba Hutchinson's status, obviously with him being out of the squads, and also, do you think Scott Arfield is likely at this point to return to the program, having not been selected again? Thanks.
Yeah, good questions. The conversations, two separate conversations. Atiba's conversation is always around his body and what he can physically commit to. And that last, I think, week of his club career really took it out of him physically. He's picked up a few little injuries, as you do at that age, that take time to heal. And bringing him into this environment, number one, there was a challenge around his reliability, I think, across the games, his ability to actually be part of those games, as well as, the mentality. I think Atiba knows his body better than anyone else. And with the little hamstring he picked up, he really needs to let that recover, because in his mind, he's got another season left. He wants to commit to one more season. He's got a Champions League coming up, and in his mind, he sees Canada getting through these games and putting us into an octagon, which he's fully committed to support the team as we push at that next level. So he made a big step in March to come in. I said to him in March, let's do March, get us through that first leg, because these are do or die games. If we lost in March to any of those teams, or if we'd had a bad run in those games, we could have easily put ourselves in a position we weren't in control. So he helped us in that stage, and given his scheduling and his situation, it was always going to be a push the June period. And I think with this injury, it's just a bridge too far for him. So that's his conversation. It's always about his body and whether or not physically he feels he can contribute at the level that he needs to contribute, given the quality in our environment now. And Scott's a different one. I mean, Scott, he's the conversations you'll have with Scott he's open-minded around his international career. He really needed that time this year to focus on winning the league with Rangers, his family. He picked up an injury with Canada in the previous Nations League campaign. He has picked up a lot of niggling injuries with Rangers, and he's in his 30s now. His body isn't as reliable as it used to be. And I think with Scott, he was clear that his commitment was to ensure he did what he did with his club. When you speak to Scott, the competitive aspect of the Nations League experience is something that I don't think motivates him to the levels that it would do for young players that are getting their first experiences for Canada. So there's a lot of factors that play in. And then he's a family man, a guy who's had a lot of commitments at his club through Europa League, And these windows, particularly with the COVID realities, these windows are times where, he's got two very young kids that his family needs him. And I respect that. You have to respect that and not, twist people's arms too hard, too much, because I think Scott will, join the program again at the right time. So it's an ongoing conversation, or at some point he makes the decision to retire, but he's not at that stage yet. I think he's, hoping that we can get through this next round, and he's got the monkey off his back with his Rangers title, and now he can probably spread his attention in a new season coming in fresh after a pre-season into both club and country. So again, we wait and see, and I'm optimistic.
Derek Van Diest?
I just want to ask you, this looks like a pretty strong squad coming in here. I just want to ask you about the strength of the squad that you've put together, and maybe a little thought on the opponents you're facing in these two games here.
Yeah, it's a strong squad. There's faces there that you would like to have had, some pieces of the puzzle that either through injury or just where they're at in their careers after long seasons, we haven't been able to bring them in. But talking about the guys that are committed and focused, it's an exciting group. I think we've got, that flair, we've got pace, we've got power, we've got experience in key parts of the field with Bojan and net. Yeah, I think we've got a good balance across this team, and again, we've got a young group. The experience, I think, if you look at the caps, some will think, maybe lacking that sort of experience, but I think these games are what this team needs. It's that growth in CONCACAF together. So I'm excited to bring it and unleash it in these two matches. I think when the fans are able to watch this team now, it's something they really look forward to. I think they know we have an ability to attack in ways that we never used to, and yeah, it's certainly going to be tough selecting squads, that's for sure. But at the same time, you've got that depth, and we've got 4 matches potentially here. And Canada will need depth across 4 games when you've got 2-day turnarounds, travel to different countries in CONCACAF, different conditions from heat to a temperate climate. There's a lot to factor in here. So again, excited for that depth and really excited to unleash it in these matches. And on the opponents, the opponents, as I've said, it's one game at a time. Each opponent offers you something very different. Aruba, certainly a different team to what they were in March. Their squad has strengthened since March. I think they were hit by COVID, so the team that we're looking at is a one similar to, a team that was able to hold Jamaica to 2-1. It's not an 11-12-0 Cayman Island game. That's for sure. And then you're playing that in now the Florida Heat, and the guys will have a few days to adapt to that. And that's the context of that match. It's a game, I'll encourage the players to be ruthless in, to really create a mentality around setting the tone for this campaign, as we did in March, and to continue on with that work. And then we have 2 days to turn around to Suriname, who is a really tough opponent. Again, if you'd asked me 11 months ago, we had a good group. We had one of the better groups. Bermuda was the toughest team in the group. And Suriname are a completely different team now. They're a top 6 to top 8 team in CONCACAF in terms of the quality of players. So I don't think anyone had predicted that in 9 months they'd have 15 new players, all who've played at the highest levels in the Eredivisie. And I think with their team, it's not about where they're at now. It's about where they've been as players. I don't want to use the word journeyman, so I'm going to use experienced guys that have seen a lot in football. So that brings a new and exciting challenge to the group, because I think you guys have said it, the fans have said it. if we want to compete in 2022, we got to play teams. We got to test ourselves. We've got to be tested. That defense has got to be really tested. Our front five have got to be able to support that defense to ensure that we can, grind out those clean sheets in big games. So I think there's some real opportunity in both matches. And as I've said with the Suriname game, that's a tricky one. They will get an extra day's rest, which means that brings some complexity, Derek, to your squad management. So you'll have a game on Saturday, they'll play Friday, they'll be in recovery mode, and we're resetting for Tuesday. So you really have got to manage that group carefully, so you're able to, appear in that game fresh as they'll be fresh. So yeah, some things to think about. That's for sure. A few sleepless nights on how to bring this together, and we haven't even talked about the next stage of the planning, which has given us a few grey hairs. But again, these are just exciting challenges for our group, and we have to be tested.
Thank you very much. Peter Galindo, Sportsnet.
When we look at the center backs, is there any concern on that end from you and the coaching staff that you're bringing in obviously a new guy in Scott Kennedy, and Frank Stirring's been in a couple camps, and that really that one combination has played together?
Yeah, I'd like to be able to say I've got a Butcher in Adams or a Cannavaro and Maldini, guys who've had 50, international caps and grown up together in the system. But this is where we're at. We're in a stage where I believe in the men that we've selected. We have Daniil Henry, who's an absolute warrior, who's coming back from that injury and starting to accumulate the sort of minutes and showing the levels of confidence in Korea that we've seen in stages in his MLS career here, either with the Whitecaps, and alongside that you've got Stephen Vittoria, a guy who's been and seen probably everything in football, has got that experience in Portugal, and these are two of our experienced guys, and they don't have a great amount of international caps, but what I do know is they bring a presence to the environment. They are fully committed to take this team to the next level. So I've said this, when that mind's committed, the performance can raise to the next levels. And that's what I'm anticipating. And then surrounding them, you've got, the likes of Scott Kennedy, who's had a wonderful season. For me, his games in the Pokal were really defining games, watching him against that next level of opponent. Guys worth $12, $15 million. I think that's where you really get the sense, what he can handle at that young age. And obviously Frank Stirring, who, after our camp in January, showed a lot, had his debut in March and pretty much has had a very consistent run of games, probably our most consistent centre-back in terms of, gaining game time. Real shame about Kamal Miller. I mean, Kamal is a player, as you know, has really grown in this environment, and we're going to miss Kamal for sure. So I think as a collective, when you look at that centre-back group, I think we've right at the core of this, we've got some experienced warriors who are going to die for this cause, and then we've got some young guys that we will reveal their potential in some big moments. And we'll be asked questions in big moments. And as I say, I'd love to be calling on, a group of guys that have been there, done it, and seen everything in the red shirt. But this is where we're at. And I believe in this group. And I've got a feeling they're going to raise their game at a critical time.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
John from TFC Republic.
Obviously, there's a lot of Canadians who are coming off very successful seasons, whether it's Alfonso, Jonathan, Kyle, they all, coming off championship success in Europe. I'm just wondering, what have you made of this sort of unprecedented sort of success that Canadians are enjoying in Europe, and how do you transfer that success at club level to national team level?
Yeah, I think there's a reality check for Canada. I think in the last 8-10 years, the work that has been done in our system. And I'm not saying from Canada Soccer. I think I've said this all along, we're part of the puzzle that's Canada. But a lot of people have done a lot of good work across the country, the communities in football, to firstly help these young, gifted athletes fall in love with football and stay in love with football, and then to help them progress on a journey. It's been a very non-linear path for these players. There's not one way in Canada to find your way to those top levels. But I think the reality is, our system does produce good players, and we produce players now that are performing at the highest levels in the world. So I think there's more to come, as you can see what we're seeing in the depth charts, and we have Canadians popping up that have left the country at a young age, whether it's young Diaz or Flores, other Canadians that may start pushing this next level. So it's exciting, and I think when you look at the unprecedented nature, I mean, the spotlight is on the Canadian flag, and it's on our football nation now, and I think these men, collectively have to step forward and carry that flag at the heights they are at club level. And I think this generation of players can be that generation that takes this game to the next level. We've been working with these men, some of them for 4 years in this system, in this program, some of them for longer. But it is their time now. They can be that group of guys that made the difference and took it to the next level. So that's part of what we're driving here, John, and it's been part of the process since 2018 to take the culture to that next level, take the commitment from players to that next level, and then take the understanding of what these men bring on the field to the next level, so that chemistry can start to really unfold in big moments. And when I talk about that, it's the simplicity of, we've only worked together for 6 training sessions in 16 months as a collective group. Again, some of these players won't even have met each other. We'll have another 4 to 5 sessions before we play Aruba and Suriname. So that's 10 sessions in 2 years. So I think when you think about getting the best out of them, number one was giving them a little bit of time to recover after long seasons. This has been a brutal season for many of these players, letting them have that time as a dad or a partner or a husband. And they've had a little bit of a break to re-energize, refocus, and then to come in and take care of business. And that means for us, it's understanding what their skill sets are at club, how they've been utilized at club, some of the habits and learnings that we've seen in their club settings, because these camps now, there's not a massive influence you can have on a number of training sessions under pressure and fatigue. Players are going to come back to habits, and again, we've got to set up the team in that way to really capitalize the question at the beginning of how you get the best out of Johnny and Kyle. Those questions are, you can reveal some of that in their club settings and how you need to use them. And I think on that side, we've also got to take into regard, what we've been able to do in March. And number one was to put ourselves in a position of control. And that was, a big moment to, one, beat Bermuda, and two, dominate Cayman to create that goal difference to put us in a driving seat. And that was important. As I said to the players back in March, there's a real opportunity to control your destiny in June. So all of these factors are going to have to play into the decision-making coming across these 2 games alongside, as I say, the 2-day turnarounds, the heats, et cetera. So for me, bringing the best out of them is like it's a jigsaw puzzle that you've got to piece together. It won't be perfect, just given the context of how this is all unfolding. Sam Adekugbe is a great example. We didn't know until yesterday that he was going to be released due to the Norwegian quarantine. And again, we had another player pull out yesterday due to injury. So there's a lot of factors that are come into play. You can set your plans up, which we've been working on for the last, 6 weeks tactically, and things are changing. And one guy wasn't in your plans because the quarantine rule hadn't changed, and then we get a break. So yeah, it's a complex process, but as you can see, we are working hard behind the scenes to make this happen for our country, and the players, I think, John, are fully committed.
Thank you. Alexander from Between the Sticks.
Morning, John. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to kind of ask about squad size. Obviously, some teams in the region have been unveiling bigger squads with, potential long season, et cetera, et cetera. Was that something you considered when calling up this squad? And if there were, knock on wood, any sort of injuries to happen, would those training reinforcements you mentioned be possibilities to join the squad for games, knowing that you might play for this window?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the planning, one, to keep a group of players connected to our playing models as well as our culture, and also to assess a group of players for the Gold Cup as well. Guys we want to get to know a little bit more. And some players aren't available to come in for that training release. I mean, you've alluded to emotionality, time away from home. Some guys have been living in the USA, haven't seen their families for a long time, and using this window to reconnect. So, even the training squad that we'll outline a little bit later next week, get through this MLS weekend. You'll see some names there that, are obvious names, and then names of guys that are going to be supporting the team to be prepared. So you're right in saying that we will take a 24-man roster, as you've seen. But the challenge with extending those rosters is you end up with, 3, 4, 5 guys that are undressing and non-dressing. And that's, if you've ever been in that situation as a player, when you're that guy that gets told to sit in his tracksuit and sit in the stands, that's not a nice feeling over a 14-day period of time. So again, we'll keep these players on the bubble and motivated and part of what we do. But, typically we'll travel, as most teams do, with a 23, 24-man roster in this case.
John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci. Hadi, the Culture Soccer.
Yes, thank you, Richard. Hello, John. I just wanted to ask you about the inclusion of Junior Hoylett, because he's, without a contract right now. Was that a part of your, decision process, or not really?
Yeah, I feel for Junior. I really do feel for him. I mean, he's, for me, he's a top pro. He has, as you see him, he's a really top-class player when he's in rhythm. And he's just been unfortunate with the circumstances of a coaching change mid-season, a coach who plays in a different style, a different way to, what I guess his profile fits. And, for him, in my mind, he's one of our experienced players. He's captained the team before. When he's in the environment, he's an influencer. He's the glue to some of the groups in the team. And we know he's got that quality. He's a player that can turn games. And he's very committed to bringing this team to the next level. So there's no doubt in my mind that, Junior Hoylett would be part of this process. And, behind the scenes, he's been picking up games. Even through that time, he was picking up games at the U23 level to prepare himself for March, and, doing the right things to ensure he's in the right space. I mean, would I like a Junior Hoylett that's played every game and, being part of a successful campaign? Absolutely. But there's pros and cons. Sometimes they come in, more hungry and at least physically in the best shape that he's been in, but out of match rhythm is never a place you want your players to be. But it is what it is. He's, I think we all know, a very talented player, very committed to Canada, and a real influencer in this men's national team environment.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Shinetti, TSN.
Thanks for this, John. Just want to get your assessment on Scott Kennedy, his inclusion in the squad, what you're looking for out of him, and what you want people watching the team to learn about him.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's a player we've tracked now for a period of time. He had an in and out start to his Bundesliga 2 career, but over the last 9-10 months, he's developed that sort of consistency, which has earned him this call up. He was called up to the team in March, but through COVID and an injury, he was unable to attend. So it was just disappointing because we were hoping to obviously see him in March and get him a cap and get him underway for Canada. But I think anyone that's done the research on him, you get to see. For me, he's a defender first and foremost, and then that's what I really like about Scott. He reminds us a little bit of Alistair Johnston. He's got that, real profile of keep the clean sheet, defend first, and I think in the modern day you have to have that balance in your back four. The attacking profiles of the fullbacks, particularly with our front five and the prowess that we have in that part of the field. It's really important that we have players that have a real defend first profile. So, what I've seen from Scott, and it was again those 2 Pokal games where he's playing against Bundesliga opposition, you really get a sense to see, how they adapt to that next level of opponent. And yeah, he showed his competency. So for me, if you're looking at the type of profile he is, he's a no-nonsense defender, very athletic, has that sort of wiry profile where it'll be very difficult to create that separation from what I've seen. Runs the channels very well, and he'll bring a level of steel, I think, into this defensive unit. But again, he's got to be tested at this level, and hopefully the first week of training we learn a little bit more about him to see where he's at for that next level against either Aruba, Suriname, or whoever comes after.
And we'll wrap up with this, John. I know you're excited to get on the pitch with the guys coming in. Just on behalf of Gareth Wheeler, if you can just talk about the leadership getting you through the pressure-filled games. Who will you turn to, and do you think they are ready for the challenge ahead?
It's not a case of think. We have to be. I mean, that's it. You have to be. You're ready in these moments, and I think we've got in terms of leadership, it comes down to a clear purpose, and I do feel the purpose in this group will, when pain sets in, the pressure, it won't give way to the pain. I think there's a clear commitment and belief in this group, in their own abilities, and there's a clear purpose behind why we're doing this, which is way beyond the individual. We know our responsibilities in this window, and I think as a group that there's been a clear purpose that drives everyone. So that leadership is shared across this whole group. So I think on-field leadership, you'll see that emerge through guys that have been in these moments with their clubs, have experienced big moments, and then you'll see new leaders emerge. You'll see with the culture we've created, you'll see new leaders step through in big moments to, either save this country in critical moments or inspire the country with things we haven't seen before. And I think that's our reality, Gareth. We are and have to be ready for these big moments for Canada. We want to be that group of guys that took it to the next level.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. This will wrap up our press conference with head coach John Herdman from Canada Soccer's men's national team ahead of FIFA World Cup qualifiers.